Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Penny Pincher Firearms. Now, today I'm going to be talking about the gun that really kind of started this channel. The idea came up about a year and some change back, and I wanted to talk about guns that were really inexpensive and people really just underrated. It drove me crazy that some people would consider a gun to be bad just because it was inexpensive. There always seemed to be this assumption that for handguns you had to spend like $500 to have a really good handgun. And so this one gun is what inspired it, because the guy I talked to on the phone when I was ordering it told me that he'd be surprised if it even shot. He'd be surprised if it would fire. And I've got my co-star right here. This is Gordon Barnes Sosa. Good guy. Great guy. Very reliable. Don't get in his way though. So I'd have this gun that this guy just kept telling me was junk. And I didn't believe him for 1 second, to be honest. All the little bits that I've read about this gun were mostly positive. There were some negative things about it. And that gun is the HP25A and 25 ACP. Now, I'm a big fan of the 25 ACP round. I really enjoy shooting it. I have a few somewhere around here, trying to keep them far away from the gun just so, nothing bad happens. You'll probably see one later when I do the disassembly and assembly video. So, yeah, it's a round that I really always liked. I like small rounds. I like small guns. I like small cars. I'm into small things. Small mechanical things. I always find them really interesting, really cool. And I always liked 25 because it was this small round. It was a little bit bigger than 22, but it was center fire. And center fire is always going to be a more reliable form of ammunition than rim fire. If you don't know the difference between center fire and rim fire, it's not really anything you should worry about right now as long as you're using the right ammunition for your firearm. Don't worry about it. Now, with the HP25A, with, this whole frame, there are two different forms. There's the HP25A and the HP22A. The HP22A shoots 22 long rifle. HP25 shoots 25 ACP. They are not interchangeable because they are rimfire versus centerfire, respectively. So it's very important to know that distinction. If you're going to get one of these guns, know what you're shooting. Now, when it comes to things like that, though, the 25 ACP, if you're looking for something that's going to be for self-defense, centerfire is going to be far more reliable. So that's kind of a point of importance. Though, with the Phoenix Arms HP22A, you can get a range pack, which is pretty cool. The range pack actually has 2 magazines and an extra long barrel that goes with the shorter barrel. And that extra long barrel makes for higher accuracy at the range. Pretty cool little setup. So if you can find one of those and you're interested in 22, even though it's hard to find ammunition, go for it. I really recommend it. I recommend any of these guns. They're really nice. So it has a 10 round magazine. You have to be careful with these magazines though, the way you load them. You kind of have to treat them like a double stack. So when you load them, you're going to load left, right, and so on, or right, left, as long as you're having that stack look. And you'll notice from the back, you have these witness holes in the back, how many rounds you have in there. Now, it's a 10-round magazine, but I only recommend loading 9, just because for the fact that there is a spring in there that does not feel the best. It's already pretty weak. So, just something to be aware of. Moving on to the handgun. One thing that's related to the handgun and the magazine at the same time is there's no magazine hold open. When the magazine's empty, it doesn't hold open, so you're going to get a click between magazines. Just how it goes. I do feel like that's something that they probably could have fixed fairly easily, but whatever. It's not really a big issue. It's mostly a range gun if you ask me, though I do like 25 as a self-defense round. I think it's perfectly adequate. As soon as you start punching holes in somebody, they're probably going to stop. But, some people are a little crazy. Who knows? I'm sure I'm going to have plenty of comments complaining about that too. So one of the cons, I'm actually going to go through the cons first before I go through the pros, is this hammer. It's a pretty heavy hammer. It does take quite a bit of weight to pull back. And then when you're running the slide and the hammer at the same time on that first shot, it's not the easiest. If you're not familiar with guns, it's not going to be the easiest thing to run. But it is something you get used to. It's not really that big of a deal. It's kind of a little nitpicky thing. It does, however, do a lot of hammer bite. That's when the hammer comes back so fast that it literally cuts into your skin. I have gotten a lot of that. It's very similar to my Tokarev. Not nearly as bad, but it happens, and it's uncomfortable. So it's something to watch out for. If it's something that's counterpoint to what you want, keep it in mind. So another thing is this spring just doesn't feel very strong. It's adequate for the job, but it just never feels good enough. I've never had an actual malfunction, as far as I can remember, that I think involves the spring in there. But, it feels wrong. It feels too light. But there's not much I can do about it, so I accept it. Another con, and it's something I fixed, sort of. I broke to fix, is this safety right here. This safety is a pain in the butt, so I broke it off. Now, I'm not advocating that you break off this safety. It's very important that I make that emphasis. I did not tell you break it off, but I did. Personally, I did. Completely illegal in my state, completely legal in most states, because I still have this safety right here on the slide. This is a firing pin safety, and in the down position, it's unsafe, and it blocks the firing pin from actually traveling all the way to the primer on the round, and ensures that it does not fire. So that's actually a really good safety. I've tested it on many occasions, purposefully and accidentally, so it's happened. So moving on to the pros of this gun, after removing that safety, these grips are great. I love these grips. It's a very narrow gun, and it honestly doesn't need much more width. It feels good in the hand. It's a 20-ounce gun. These grips are actually really nice. They have good checkering on them. They're plastic. They're just basic black plastic, but they feel good. The whole grip actually feels really good. It's very ergonomically designed, and it's just super comfortable. For a 20-ounce handgun, I can at least ask for this, especially at $100. Give me a nice grip. If nothing else, give me a nice grip. And you know what? Phoenix Arms delivers. One of the other positives, I love that trigger. That is a great trigger. It's not super light, but it's very crisp. What's nice is there's not a lot of slop in that trigger. It's got a spring that holds it in place so it's not wiggling around. And when you get to the break, it's crisp. It's very crisp. It's very nice. And it's great on the range. I get decent grouping with this handgun. So I've always been quite pleased with that. Another positive, I would say, is this button right here. It has a button release for the magazine. So you have that button release, and the magazine does pop out quite nicely. So, you can catch it like that. So it's, to me, a very nice gun. And then even listen to this. For the most part, this is a solid gun. I would say that the tolerances were very high at the Phoenix Arms plant where they manufacture these. It's just a nice handgun. I think some people might complain about it for various reasons, but you know what? I like it. It's really nice. So why don't we get the camera around and take a closer look at the inners and how to take it apart. So the first thing I'm going to bring out is a 7.62x5.4. A lot of you guys are familiar with this. This is the typical round used in a Mosin Nagant. If you're into cheap guns, this is a round you should probably be familiar with. Mosin Nagants, not terribly expensive, usually still under about $200 in various shape. And here comes my guest star. Come on, Gordon. Looks like he's gonna All right. No, just stay there. No. He's going to ruin my video, but I'm going to keep this stuff in. So, he bit me. So next in line is still a 30 caliber technically. It's 32 H&R Magnum. That's for a future video. Next, I'm going to bring out a 22. Everybody knows 22. Believe it or not, this is a 22 I found out in the desert in Southern California. And I just thought it was such a weird thing to find. Actually, my buddy Nate found it. But I thought it was such a weird thing to find, and he let me keep it. So it was kind of a cool thing. And here is a 25 ACP. Now you notice the 25 is basically the same length as the 22. But it is slightly wider. It's 6.35, whereas the 22 is 5.56. So it's a slightly wider case, so it can hold a little bit more powder, but not a whole lot. But it's just big enough that it has a primer. And here comes Gordon again. He hears me talking, so he wants some attention. I thought I'd let him co-star with me today. Don't mess with my lighting equipment, jerk. So, finally, I just wanted to show this. If you're on my Facebook, this is that yuan I found over on the ground at my local shooting range. Kind of a weird thing to find, but whatever. I thought it was a quarter when I saw it, but neato. So, all right, let's get to disassembly. Disassembly is actually really easy. Disassembly is the easiest thing about this gun. The only problem is if you have everything in the original state, if you're not like me and you've taken off this magazine safety, which, like I said, is completely legal, except in certain states. But for the most part, as long as there's one safety on the firearm, it's completely legal. Where I am in Texas, it's not a problem. So it still has this safety right here, the hammer safety that I mentioned before. So disassembly is really simple. You just take this right here. This is actually a disassembly lever as well as a keeper for the recoil spring. And you push it back. Can kind of hear it moving. I'll bring it up here. So it moves forward ever so slightly. Move that forward and push up on the barrel. Keep your hand in front of everything just because that spring, the recoil spring, is going to pop out on you. So that should just pop right off. Next, the slide is really easy. Just lift up when it pushes forward, take that off, and then this comes right off like that, and it's all taken apart. No problem. The hard part is reassembling it. Now, if you have the safety still in place, you need the magazine to be in there and the gun to be on safe. Otherwise, it's not going to work. Period. It's just how it is. Now, what you're going to do is keep that safety in place. Take this, and it gets really fiddly right after this point, literally. Then you got to take the slide, kind of bring it up so that the spring comes up over right here, and then guide the spring back so it's held in place. Then you turn the barrel over and slide the whole thing back. And this will cause you so much heartache, because guess what? That's going to happen every time. That's part of the reason I took the safety off, is that it's such a pain in the butt. See? Just popped right off. Didn't even need me to do it. So, the alternative way, if you have removed the safety, I am once again not telling you to remove the safety. It is your choice. Check your local laws. Make sure it's okay to do it. I don't want anybody getting in trouble. I don't want myself getting in trouble. So, you have that back in place, and you can take the magazine out. Okay? Next, do like I did before. Guide this into place, like so. Once again, guide the spring behind the slide. Take the magazine, turn it this way so the top of the magazine is facing the breech of the handgun. And then push back. See? Disassembly is the worst part of this gun. Or reassembly, sorry, is the worst part of this gun. Disassembly is not a problem. But if you get it right, you'll see right there, it holds the spring in place. Then all you have to do is take the barrel and find the rod in there. And you'll notice there is a nice little notch right there in the barrel. Find that, which also is not the easiest thing. There we go. It's in place. And let the slide go forward. Everything should lock up nicely. And then you have a functional handgun. Notice I had the safety on at all times. That's one of the cool things, is you can keep the safety on, at least the striker block safety or firing pin safety on while you're disassembling. You'll notice it's a little bit dirty in there, but you know, it's not bad. I keep it greased rather than oiled. And then you can replace the magazine like so. Functional gun. Alright guys, now you've seen the video of me taking it apart and everything. You know, I have my negative points on this gun, but for the most part, I really like it. I have had very few issues with this. It's a very functional gun. It's brought me a lot of pleasure. I wouldn't say I'm married to it, but I think I'm going to keep this one around. I really like it. It's always been fun to shoot. It's got really decent recoil. It's not too bad, but it's not too soft, so I can feel when it's being shot. Capacity is really nice for something so small. You know, 25 ACP is not the most powerful round, so it's really one of those things where you want to put a lot of lead down range if you're trying to stop somebody. And then when you're at the shooting range, you know, it's nice to have a big magazine so you don't have to keep reloading. So, you know, personally, I'd recommend this gun. I'd recommend it in 22 caliber before I recommend it in 25, just because 22 caliber, no matter what, is always going to be the less expensive handgun ammunition. 25 ACP, it's still about $20 for 50 rounds, whereas 22 is always going to be probably like around $5 for 50 rounds. So a lot cheaper than this. So, you know, that's my suggestion to most people, is go for the 22 before you go for the 25. As I understand it, the 25s are a lot harder to find now anyway. 22s are not so hard to find, but they're still pretty tough to find. I was actually looking around on the internet before just to see if there were any of either, and I haven't found a single place that had them in stock, though I have had a few places that I found that were listing the 22s. They were not listing the 25s. So the 22s, the lowest price I saw was $140 from Classic Firearms. They were out of stock, but that's the place I'd recommend. Most other places, they either considered it discontinued or not in stock. So I don't know if Phoenix Arms discontinued this handgun or what. Their website still lists it, so it's something that they're, to them at least on their website, they are selling. So, you know, that might be something to look into. But honestly, go for the 22. 22 is always going to be less expensive handgun ammunition. And honestly, 22 is not a banned round for self-defense, especially in your home. So just remember, guys, $99. Good gun doesn't always have to cost a pretty penny.